Welcome to Robert Craig's 11th in a series of virtual tastings, hosted by Elton and Slone, with special guest Donald Patz of the Donald Patz Wine Group. Today's tasting is 2013, an ideal vintage for Mountain Vineyards, with the 2013 Affinity Cabernet Sauvignon, 2013 Spring Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon, and the 2013 Mount Veeder Cabernet Sauvignon. We hope you enjoyed today's tasting. If you'd like to taste alongside Elton, these wines are available on our website. Also, check video details below for links to future live virtual tastings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our millionth webinar here at Robert Craig. It feels like, my God, we're still in the middle of COVID. But today I am very excited because we are going back to the great year of 2013. And I looked through some headlines to see what was happening in the world. Pretty incredible. We have Donald Patz here, AKA Dr. Pino, with us. We have Jamie Castro sitting in front of a beautiful photo of our lower block of our Candlestick Vineyard. And we are lucky enough to have a little soul to play us in. We have Jamie's husband, Scott Castro, is going to play us in with one of the best songs, or one of the most notable songs from 2013.
It's a pretty good song.
Name that tune. So I give you Scott Castro and his song from the Ordinary Sons, his band. Here we go, people. 2013.
All right, here we go. We clawed, we chained our hearts in vain. We jumped, never asking why. We kissed, I fell under your spell of love, and no one could deny. Don't you ever say, I just walked away. I will always want you. Well, I can't live a life running for my life. I will always want you. I came in like a wrecking ball, never felt so hot in love. All I wanted was to break your walls. All you ever did was wreck me, wreck me. Well, I put you high up in the sky, and now you're not coming down. We slowly turn, let me burn now. We're ashes on the ground. Don't you ever say, I just walked away. I will always want you. Well, I can't live a life running for my life. I will always want you. I came in like a wrecking ball. I never felt so hot in love. All I wanted was to break your walls. All you ever did was wreck me. I came in like a wrecking ball. Yeah, I just closed my eyes and swore, left me crashing in a blazing ball. All you ever did was wreck me. Never meant to start a war. I just wanted you to let me in, and instead of using force, I guess I couldn't let you in. I never meant to start a war. I just wanted you to let me in. I guess I should have let you in. And don't you ever say, I just walked away. I will always want you. I came in like a wrecking ball. Yeah, I just closed my eyes and swore, left me crashing in a blazing ball. And all you ever did was wreck me. I came in like a wrecking ball. I never felt so hot in love. All I wanted was to break your walls. All you ever did was wreck me. You wrecked me. Wreck me. All right.
Hey, I never knew I even liked Miley Cyrus that much.
Neither did I. And I never thought anybody would introduce me saying I was going to sing a Miley Cyrus song, but there you go.
Hey, that was fantastic, Scott. Thank you so much. Scott is going to join us back a little bit later. He's doing the Austin City Limits stage today, and we're very fortunate to have him take us back to 2013. But hey, to all of our wine club members, I cannot believe it. We have another sold out show tonight. I think we have about 350 people on with us, and I have so many of our wine club members here to thank. We had an absolute nightmare go on with FedEx in the winter storm in the Southeast that closed down their hub in Memphis. They assured us that we would have all the packages delivered this week, no problem, but that is not the case. So I think out of a little over 100, we have 15 people that we're going to have to see next Friday without Donald and without Donald Patz, unfortunately, and without the sweet sounds of your husband, Jamie, without Scott Castro. So let me just say what an opportunity this is. I can't believe that it's been 8 years since the birth year of these wines. If things go by so quickly, it's amazing. But to all of our Craigers, I give a shout out to you all. Thank you so much for coming on to join us. It's been a major journey. We're in recovery from the fires, and you know, it's incredible to see green shoots growing up on Howell Mountain again, and down on the valley floor. There's mustard all in bloom over the valley. Napa Valley has never looked more beautiful than it has this week. And I'm very lucky today to be joined by longtime friend, Instagram companion, originator of the California Wine Challenge, all around famous guy. I think they have a bronze bust of you up in front of every decent restaurant all over the Hawaiian Islands. I don't know what it's about there for Donald Patz, but ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to my special guest to help examine and discuss the 13s tonight. And he brought along a little bit of his very rare 2014 Secret Door Cabernet. I give you Donald Patz in the lower screen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elton. I'm going to hire you to build me up every time I'm going to be introduced. That was such a great and I want to see those bronze busts in front of all the restaurants. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, come on, man. Mama's Fish House. They know you by name. They have a table worked out for you there every year, right?
I love it. I mean, really, honestly, who doesn't like to go to Hawaii? And so I've made a special place to be able to go, and I've got a lot of friends over there now. It's just wonderful. So I love that part of it. But I travel all over, and so I'm glad to be here with you today and to be able to try your 2013s. 2013 for me, I was still at Patz and Hall, and it was a good year for us there. I mean, I think as I recall, the 2013 vintage for Chardonnay and for Pinot Noir, we really liked those wines a lot, and I thought that each one of the vineyards from that year for us really stood out and was different from the others. So it really, I think it gave a special kind of twist to the year that allowed each vineyard to have its own voice.
Well, that's tremendous. For us, 2013 was a year that was really phenomenal. The wines are very different because we started with a professional farming company for the first time. We went with Walsh Vineyard Management. And listen, for everybody that the chat, I should have disabled, but I did not. So please go to the Q&A and use that unless you want to chat amongst yourselves. But Jamie will answer all the Q&A questions. I barely made it to nap in time today. There was some crazy accident. So I got here and opened the wines and didn't have time to get my lighting right for my visage. But we're going to plow through anyway. But 13 for us at Robert Craig marked such a change in the wines with the professional management, with everything that we were doing in winemaking, with Stephen Tebbs coming of age and Jason Price's arrival at the winery, who's now head winemaker. And it was a really remarkable vintage in that it had all of the color component of like a 97 or a 2007, but where those wines to me were missing the tannin and the acid and the nerve for the wines, the 13s from us have this incredible backbone and structure. So these wines to me still taste very young. Stephen was still getting his feet wet with our vineyards. And since 2013, we've gone from, I think 30% estate grown to starting in 15, we went to 90% estate grown. But 13 for us was a major kind of shift in quality and having professional management. And so the label changed as well. It got longer, a little less crowded, only one font. And then we also have the Summit Ridge of Howell Mountain featured on top of all the labels. But the label company didn't do the emboss right, and they didn't put even color on the back label. So the first release was not what we wanted, but we paid a whole lot less for the labels. So starting in 2014 is the year that we had the labels. But as we get started on Affinity, I want everybody to start with Affinity. Then I'm going to taste a little Secret Door in the hillsides of 14, the next vintage with Donald. But I want you to think back to 2013. And Donald, so you were at Patz and Hall in 2013. Were you guys getting close to the transaction that was, you guys were purchased by U.S. Tobacco?
Well, it was a company that used to own U.S. Tobacco, or U.S. Tobacco used to own, but it was Saint Michel, which is really, shoot, what's the overlord company for them? It's not U.S. Tobacco anymore. It's the Marlboro people. Yeah, another tobacco company. But we weren't even talking about it in 2013. I mean, we had no intention of selling Patz and Hall. That all came about really in late 2015, early 2016. And then I worked another year with the transition. And at the end of, early in 2017, I sat down with my boss, who I talked to probably once a month the year before. And we had an interesting conversation, at the end of which I just said, hey man, you know what my dream is you just cut me free from my non-compete and let me go my own little way. And they said, okay. So I hit the ground running in 2017, starting to make these wines, but the 2014 we'll taste a little bit later. I'll tell you more about that when we actually have it in front of us. So yeah, I've got a long history in the wine industry, you know, over 30 vintages now.
Well, let's not, Donald, it's so fantastic. If any of you have gone to Donald's Instagram, Dr. Pino, you notice him drinking a bunch of fantastic wines, usually outside at Don Giovanni, where I never get invited to that. I'm just going to barge my way into the next session.
I think you're going to get invited.
So here we go, people. Let's start with a little 2013 Affinity. The first year that we went all estate on this wine. And Affinity, oh my God, you know, both Jeb Dunnick this year. Let me do a little share screen here and get us in the mood for 2013. As always, I start with the mothership, with our home on Howell Mountain at 2,300 feet. Though we're not going to be having any Howell Mountain in this tasting, which is a real rarity for me, because this is where we begin and end at Robert Craig. I was up there this week with Jamie and with Scott Johnson, who is now wine club director for us, working under Jamie. And oh my goodness, what a time that is. Here's a little winter storm activity. This is what it is supposed to look like later, probably tomorrow morning early, because we're going to get some much needed rain up there tonight. Back in 2013, I went through the photo galleries, and here's a shot of Bob and I out on what is right next to Brandlin. And this actually this piece was bought by the folks at Progeny, and they put their winery up on this piece of Mount Veeder that Bob turned them on to, because I said, Bob, are you out of your ever-loving mind that you want to plant this? And then you have to get a erosion control plan, a water plan, a wildlife plan, everything else. So it's like 7 years before you get it in the ground. But evidently Paul Wools and Betty O'Shaughnessy have a lot more juice than I do with the county, because they got it in pretty quick. But it was a beautiful site. There's Bob with Greg Cole. That was when Greg still owned Cole's Chop House. And man, oh man, do I miss that guy. I miss seeing Greg at the Chop House too, though Eric is doing a hell of a job. Here we are, converting Affinity we're pruning it up from the Scion. We're retraining from the Scion to get rid of all that shitty looking wood that's on there. So we basically got another 10 years out of the Affinity vineyard before a replant back then. So in a few years, this one's gonna have to come out. But that's Carlos Mendez and Toll Merritt of Walsh Vineyard Management back in there. This is how well I was known in the Valley. You know, this is my Flavor Napa Valley credential. Elton.
Awesome.
instead of Elton Slone. So you can see that, that was from 2013 as well. I had so much juice. I was all skinny and riding my bike around the Pyrenees in France. I could eat a whole pizza by myself, no problem. And now look what's happened. My God.
So I got a question. If we back up to your tag, I wonder if it's your handwriting, because you had to handwrite your name for that tag at some point. So do you have like doctor's handwriting so they can't actually tell what it is, and so they just guessed it was Stone? Or
Donald, don't give me that crap. All right. Everybody got it typed correctly. And I would say Sloan, not Stone. There I am, young, uncramped by Craig. This is Shelley moving into my 2-bedroom, 1,100 square foot apartment at the time. That's when I met my wife, Shelley. Look at that. There's my girl. We were in Saint-Tropez at the time, 2013. I so miss travel. Pay It Forward was the big story. That was the big term. Lance Armstrong's interview with Oprah back in 2013. Look what was on TV. Breaking Bad just kicked off. This was really great. Using your own immune cells to very specifically kill cancer. Hopefully nobody's had that experience, but what a wonderful thing that was. Kim Kardashian and Kanye broke the internet. And look at this. 7-year itch a few years later, and they're all done. But this wonderful young lady that stood up to the Taliban, just incredible. That was one of the major stories of the year. We lost Paul Walker. Hard to believe that franchise is still going. And then Jamie, your husband's muse, Miley Cyrus and Robin Thicke there cranking it out at the American Music Awards. And then just this week, a couple days ago, we were up on the mountain looking at Silverado Vineyard Management's beautiful work on how there's our new boy, that's Scott Johnson. And now I take you to we're going to come back to Secret Door and Donald. You've met him. I'm going to bring you back to the Affinity Vineyard. So here we are with Affinity, and it's really a special place, this vineyard. Venus just gave us 93 after just saying blah, 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 deep and dense, wonderfully nuanced, so much to offer, and then 93 points. So I was disappointed in the score, but what can I tell you? Affinity is one of the best buys in ageable Cabernet in the Napa Valley every year. Cool climate fruit, all 5 of the 5 Bordeaux varieties, and it has this amazing acid. The pH for Napa Valley, Donald can tell you, now is around 4.0, inverse relationship between pH and acidity in general. And the pH in this vineyard in 2013 was 363. And that is like Chateau Montrose level in Saint Estèphe, which is a very cool area of Bordeaux. So I am saying this wine has the nerve. It is always underrepresented, underrated, and often overlooked. But Affinity is one of the best wines, I think, anywhere in the Napa Valley. $70 for this wine. My God.
And a little more of that.
Yeah. So let's take a taste and see where it takes you. But this vineyard is just east of where I'm sitting in our downtown salon and office in the foothills. And it's right below another great vineyard, Meteor. It was planted by John Caldwell in 1989. Fortunately, before we needed an erosion control plan in the valley even. So the vines are old. It's on some really lousy rootstock for the stony soils there. It's on 5C. And, I would love to have it on 110R. We get a lot more yield, but it just makes this wine that tastes so much like this area. This wine definitely needs a little aeration because it has some, back then in particular with the farming, it has a little veggie to it when it first opens up. But what a glorious experience in a young wine for 8 years old.
What I like about, and I think this is true across all of the Cabernets that you make, is that you mentioned the veggie thing. And I don't see it as veggie. I think that there's this really nice sort of dried herb note. And when I drink Cabernet, if I don't get a signal somewhere in there that there's some herbal note or some dried herb, or hopefully it's not cooked vegetables or asparagus, but something in there that says, that's what says Cabernet to me. I mean, if it doesn't have that, you might as well be making Merlot or something else, Cabernet Franc. But if you're making Cabernet Sauvignon, you want the signature of Cabernet Sauvignon to come through. And I think that that's one of the things I've always appreciated about your wines, is that you're not afraid to have some of that. Now, everybody likes a different amount of it. I'm just not, it's one of those things that I'm really excited about, including in the wines that I'm making.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you, for me, I am not a fan of that intense pyrazine. I don't like it in Sauvignon Blanc where it tastes like cat urine. I don't like it in Cabernet where it comes off as like this really heavy bell pepper. But I love like Chapelet Pritchard Hill wine. I like Randy Dunn's wines, which are Mike Dunn's wines now. I like all of these wines that have that, like you said, that signature of Cabernet, and some of that, the herbs should be dried and sweet. It shouldn't be harsh or abrasive. And so these wines to me, this has affinity, typically has that espresso coffee bean of that area of Coombsville, but it also has that kind of really pretty, lavender, that licorice, the anisette quality. I am digging this wine.
Yeah. The
Jamie,
other thing I'm shocked about with this is that if somebody handed me this glass blind and said, what year do you think this is, Donald? I'd be guessing, nothing older than 2015. Probably I'd be 2016 would be a good guess for me. I would have guessed that this was 2016 or something like that. There's a very youthful character to it, and which goes to the whole point of ageability. I think, great Napa Valley Cabernets ought to also have the ability to age gracefully. Even if they're accessible early on, they should be able to hold together.
I agree that sometimes the more accessible early on, the better the wine is going to do. When the wine is balanced and the tannin, there's enough fruit to hold the tannin and the acid together, as is the case with this wine. I am just amazed at how well, like our Howell Mountain in particular, how ready it appears sometimes on release because everything is integrated, but how young the wines stay as they age. And I mean, one of the great tests is to leave these wines in a glass for a couple of days. And, I buy a lot of, I buy a lot of cheap red and white Italian wine and French wine from K&L for sure, because I can't afford to drink my own stuff all the time. But if you leave that overnight, I think, I'm going to come back to that in the morning. And whether it's a Côte d'Aron or a really nice little glass of Chablis from somewhere, a lot of times those wines are dead in the water. And these wines are almost impervious to oxygen decay overnight. Jamie, do we have any questions for the great Donald Patz and myself? You have to man the chat too, because I know Jeffrey Luce, I see him going crazy. Jeffrey.
No worries. Well, Dan O'Connor had asked a question about, and he had kind of directed it to Donald, but I think you kind of jumped in and answered. He had asked if you guys were, if Donald, you were referring to the pyrazine notes that are associated with Cab Sauv or Sauv Blanc or Cab Franc when you were talking about, the herbal characteristics or getting that dried herb flavor. So we did have that question. And then let's see in the chat. So far, we're getting a lot of love. Lots of people are saying hello and that they're happy to be a part of this. And they were asking what order you're going to taste the wines in, Elton. So I kind of guessed, but maybe you can chat about that.
We're going to start with affinity. And then unfortunately for you all, it's just going to be Donald and I getting into that 14 secret door, 170 retail, but Donald's got a deal for you. If you want to come on at the end, you'll get an email with all of his information. And then we're going to go back to 13 Spring Mountain and finish up at our Pimray vineyard. 13 Pimray, that was our second to last vintage on Pimray Vineyard. Our last was 15. So we're going to have a little bit of Robin Williams Pimray Vineyard to finish up. And then Scott is going to play us another fine selection from 2013 as we sit and sip these wines. But anything else right now, Jamie? Whoops, I think you're muted. I think you're muted, Jamie.
Sorry, not so far. No other questions so far. Remind everybody to ask.
I love this. I feel so good on a Friday. I'm telling you what, this whole experience of COVID and the fires, we still have not received a dime from Chubb Insurance. If you're out there, hashtag #FlubItChubb. But of course, we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of repair to the water systems, to the road. Everything has been, I've never experienced anything like this in my career. And you guys, I know that I see the Leahys are on there, don't even have wine and have come through. And thank you guys so much for sending me photos, drinking the wine. Some days you just want to go out, and I think, you know what would be a lot better is just to be a ditch digger. I think about that great Paul Newman movie where he had to dig the ditch and fill it back in, you know, still here, boss, still here.
Yep.
But cool hand Luke, you know, but we continue to survive and thrive. And this 13 Affinity is doing it for me. I wish we had a whole bunch more expensive wines from Napa Valley in a brown bag and a table full of critics here, because I think Affinity would do very nicely. So
it would, Elton. But the thing is, as long as they're in brown bags, it would do really well. And then they yank them out and then they go, oh, that's that. Oh, well, I didn't catch it at first, but now I can see. Yeah. This wine is great, and you should be proud of it. I'm certainly thrilled to be able to share it with you today. So,
well, all of our club members and all of our wine clubbers and our best customers are going to get an offer when club comes out this month. I know Jamie's like, don't say anything, but it has been out there at $49.99 retail. So you guys are going to get it for that. So I don't have to hear any more harping. Our distributors, oh my God, when they have inventory, sometimes there's nothing you can do. And there's basically 2 distributors left in the country, RNDC, Republic National Distributing Company, and Southern Glazers. So it's not like you can go shop around for somebody to take your wine to restaurants, but I digress. Donald, let me share screen one more time and very quickly here. Whoops.
that's nice.
I have no idea. What just happened. Oh my God. Hang on a second. There we go. So we'll go back through Affinity, the beautiful 93 from Venus, and let us go back. These are the boys making wine, Jason Price, Keith Emerson. We're going to go back to Secret Door here. This is this gorgeous label and a shot of Donald when he was on acid at Burning Man. Rarity.
Yeah.
I love that photograph.
Me too. It was fun to do. We had a great time.
So I'm going to try your 14. So Donald's first vintage was 2014 with Secret Door. Beautiful wax closure, a bottle like ours that's extremely heavy, so it costs you a fortune to ship it.
Absolutely.
But boy, does it feel good in your hand. And the wax closure, by the way, I love because I can pull this one out with my corkscrew. I tried your 17s. We exchanged a little wine.
Yeah, we did.
And they are magnificent. Oh my God, are they just full and have nerve? So the 14, you can't tell us where this, it's just a Napa Valley appellation.
It is a Napa Valley appellation. Well, what happened was, if you remember my story about how I ended up getting a chance to do my own project, so that all happened in 2017. So how do you end up with a 2014 wine? It was available on the bulk market. Somebody decided that they were, it's a long story, but the essence of it was that they didn't think that they were going to end up selling this wine. Originally, when they made it, they thought they were going to sell it for $300 a bottle. And so they offered it on the bulk market. It was expensive, but there wasn't an enormous amount of it. And I'd never tasted anything like it that was available on bulk ever. I never thought I would buy bulk wine, but I just happened to stumble across this offering. And so we bought it and finished it. And that became the very first release of Secret Door. The picture on the label is going to change with each vintage, by the way. So you saw, Elton, you saw the 17s, they're different. Here's the one I just finished bottling today. This is the 2018. So we've got wines coming up. It's a lot of fun. It's an interesting project. The reason that Dr. Pinot, or a guy who's spent most of his career doing Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, made Cabernet Well, first of all, Cabernet's fun to drink. I love it. I'm happy to share it. But the reason that became an important thing to do in 2017 when I was free to do whatever I wanted to do was because when I was dating my now wife, she she literally told me, I don't I don't really like Pinot all that much anyway. I'd rather drink Cabernet or Bordeaux. And I'm like, fine. So the sales guy in me pops out and, take away the argument. So I said, fine, move to California and be with me, and I'll make Cabernet Sauvignon for you someday. And so she moved. We ended up getting married, and I had an opportunity to finish the promise. And so I figured that was a high priority. So Secret Door is all about keeping my word and making Cabernet, but secretly, I probably would have done it anyway. It's a lot of fun. The 2014, I think, is beautiful. It's showing really well right now. I just tried it again, and I'm proud of the way that this wine has come together. Even though I didn't crush the grapes, I did finish it in barrel and bottle it. So I feel really good about where it's going. I think the main reason I was interested in buying it in bulk is because I really felt that the core characteristics of this wine really were what I was going to be looking for in future vintages of Secret Door. So, there's just in my mind, just the right amount of, we like, yes, as chemists, we like to talk about pyrazines and things, but I really think it's more complicated than a single compound. The characteristic that comes through is herbaceousness in Cabernet Sauvignon. So I like the level that it has, and I'm not afraid of it. I agree with you that when it becomes like smelling bell peppers or asparagus, that's way, way too much. But some like I said, is a requirement. What I really have been enjoying about the 2014 is that softer, silkier tannins and the way that it seems to be bringing itself together on a slow trajectory. So I know I'm going to be able to drink this for the rest of my life. Like, at some point out there, we all go on to, different dimensions, but as long as I'm around, I know this 2014 will still be drinking great.
Well, I take you back to the same dimension you were in when you took that photograph on acid, because if you're changing the label every year, Donald, you are out of your mind.
I am a little. It's kind of fun, actually. Looking for door pictures is pretty cool, and it's amazing. You know what? If you have never done this, you really should just run, #door or something like that on Instagram. There are whole accounts dedicated nothing to except door pictures. And often they're from different places. So like doors of Paris, doors of Sydney, doors of, Spain, things like that. It's really fun to look through them. And for some reason at the moment, not everybody, but there's a group of people out there who really dig doors. But for me, the whole thing about, first of all, secrets, everybody thinks secrets are cool. And we all think we're really good at keeping them. Nobody's really good at keeping secrets, because what's the point of having a secret if you can't tell somebody the secret? So secrets I think are intriguing. And then the door part of it, I had this picture and I kept seeing it pop up on my computer. And every time I'd see it is in fact a secret door. It's a secret. The original one on the 2014 is a secret door between the Aman Hotel and the Summer Palace in Beijing. And I happened to have been there once in my entire life and got a chance to take a picture of it, and it kept popping up. So secret door kind of came from that. But I love the idea of doors, and the fact that doors, in my mind, when I think about doors, I think of them as having three different potential ways of existing. One is a door that's closed and locked, and it's a denial of being able to move through and do whatever it is that you wanted to do on the other side. Second one is closed but not locked, and effort is required to pass through onto the next level. And the third one is open, and no effort at all, just walk right through. And I always think of making great wines as the second one. There's a pathway to it, but it's not a just walk through. You've got to actually do effort in order to achieve what you want to do. So doors have been fun for me.
Wow. In the late great words of Jim Morrison, unless he's still out there somewhere, I've always been a backdoor man. So, it's amazing, Donald, how beautiful this wine is. For all of you guys out there, you'll get an offer. I don't know how much Donald doesn't have probably a stick of 14 left around, but the wines that I've had are amazing. And it's really cool for you to share this wine of similar age to the 13s that we're having. And it's showing that really nice, more inviting lusciousness of the 14 vintage to me. 13s were, they continue to be a little bit hard and a little bit reticent, but this 14 is delicious.
Thank
So I think we're making progress here, Donald. I think we're having a good discussion.
you.
You
Well, it's fun. We've known each other long enough so we can have a little back and forth. It's kind of fun. So
Yeah, come on. I'm still here, damn it. So, God,
Elton, I do have a question
Okay.
Jamie,
for Donald.
Yes.
Peter and Susan Bresick are wondering where the wine is grown.
So the 2014 that we've been talking about, I can't disclose, but starting in 2017, I'm getting grapes from two sources. So one of them is Hirondelle Vineyard, which is right along Silverado Trail in Stag's Leap. And the second one is called Sage Ridge Vineyard, up in the mountains to the east of St. Helena and kind of across the valley from Pritchard Hill. So it's not on Pritchard Hill, but it's the same. You start up the same road, and then instead of going to the right to go to Pritchard Hill, you turn to the left and go up the mountain there. It's an extraordinary vineyard. Both sites are amazing. So there's quite a difference between the wines, as you can well imagine, if you were buying grapes from Valley Floor in Stag's Leap versus the side of a mountain way up in the hills. As you well are aware of the differences between these kinds, they really exhibit themselves in there. So 2017 and now I just bottled the 2018s are those two vineyards.
This wine tastes hillside to me. What does it rhyme with? What does that mountain rhyme with, Don?
It's a really famous part of the Napa Valley that is not an AVA.
All right. It rhymes with Richard Hill.
It could.
Yeah, it could. Well, the wine is absolutely gorgeous. This is just so cool to be able to hang out on a Friday afternoon and drink wine with all of my favorite people in the world from there that are intelligent enough to buy Robert Craig and a Donald Patz sighting. So it's back to sharing is caring, the end of the Affinity Vineyard. So now we are on to Spring Mountain, and spring, I think, has always been for us, we've been a Mount Veeder, Howell Mountain house forever. So the Spring Mountain 2013 was really our last vintage of the second tier blocks on this vineyard. 2014 and 15 marked our move up, because Barnett used to buy from this vineyard, to the very best blocks. So 13 was a more elegant year for this to me, but I when this wine started its life, I was not crazy about it. And it has turned into this glorious, like Bordelaise something or other, which I will now avail myself of here. But
it's really interesting. And what I really like when we try multiple wines from the same winemaker is that they shouldn't all taste exactly the same. I mean, we should actually be able to smell and taste a significant difference between this. I'm sure this is something that you've discussed internally for a long time, or probably discuss with your friends whenever you're tasting and sharing these wines. But what I really like is that this smells like Spring Mountain. There's a sort of a raspberry note in there that is so different from the Affinity.
It has that, you can see the lavender growing in the photo, and this to me smells like lavender and that conifer, that conifer forest floor, and all those sort of dark mountain flowers. This wine has always had this exotic perfume that is so Spring Mountain. And, on Spring Mountain, we're certainly more Philip Togny than we are La Colla. We are about the really basic balanced power of the mountain. And I have to say, this 13 to me, I am just amazed at how much I love this wine now. I mean, I was so bummed out. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're paying 10 grand a ton for this fruit. and this is what I get when it came out in a great vintage like 13. But I think the wine, when it was young, it just locked down, which is unusual for our wines because they're so minimally treated. But 13 got fairly warm in September, October, and this vineyard being dry farmed, you couldn't use any water to mitigate any of that. So it's fascinating to me that how well, oh my God, this wine is just, the perfume on it is so exotic.
Is this,
Elton, we have a question from Michael Murphy about the Spring Mountain. He was asking if it's 100% cab or if we have blended in another varietal.
that was what I was going to just ask too, because I was looking at the back label.
Well, this wine, we always lie. This wine used to be, this wine we made, we started with this wine in 2005, I believe was our first vintage of spring, and that was 100% Cabernet. But we've added Cabernet Franc, and most of the time a little, because we get a block of Cabernet Franc now. We're in the very best section of the vineyard that faces, straight south. The soils are the best drained there. And for a while, this was farmed by David Tate, who's been the longtime winemaker for the Barnett family. And now it's farmed by a guy whose name I should know because I met him 1,000 times, but I cannot right now. I'm put on the spot. It'll come to me when I'm not thinking about it in my car, but it's farmed extremely well. And we're lucky to have it, but we get a block now of Cabernet Franc, and a little Petit Verdot is always in there. So depending on how many glasses of wine I've had when I'm writing the notes or putting the back label together, as Jamie can tell you, or Donald can tell you in this business, it's like, oh my God, Galoni is going to be tasting these next week, or Dunnick or whomever, and I need to get some notes together. And it's like, the winemaker's not available. And then I just have to remember what in the hell went into the wine. So it's a science, it's an art, but I guarantee you there's Cabernet Franc and a little Petit Verdot in this, because this wine always, the Cabernet is so freaking hard. It always needs a little blender. And this, like Affinity, again, Napa Valley is a 4.0 pH town. And this wine is always in the 3.6s. And you notice Galoni's review of our Spring Mountain 18 was 94 plus. And he said, man, this wine really has a bite to it early on. He said it's a spectacular wine, but that's because it has this amazing acidity that mellows out in the wine over the first few years. But I would hate to take that out of the wine, because that's what the wine wants to be. And when you get this wine at 8 years old and it starts to show like this, I'm vindicated, damn it.
Well, there's two things that I think that you're sort of weaving your way through. The first is, how people are picking. Why are some of these wines coming in at 4.0? And what does that even mean? I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there who are chemists and stuff, and they completely understand what pH of 4.0 is. But in wine, you're really shooting for the mid threes for the most part. That's what we sort of think of as our ideal. And the reason that you're seeing these is because some people have just decided that they love the flavors of really ripe Cabernet better than anything else. So they're letting the grapes hang out there for a long time. It metabolizes a lot of the acidity, and you get these wines that are. So what happens with 4.0 pH is that the wines tend to become brown fairly quickly. So a few years down the road, it might have looked great when you first bought it. There's lots of purple and stuff, but as the wine begins to mature, it will become much browner. The rim will become that sort of brickish color only a few years after you've purchased it. And I just don't think it's set up for the long run, personally. But the other one is, and this is sort of not a secret, especially if you drink a lot of Napa Valley Cabernet, but there's certainly a school that thinks that leaving a little residual sugar, kind of a good thing. It adds a little bit of that goodness is just awesome. And I'm in the same camp as you are, Elton. I want to pick my grapes probably a little less ripe than some of my brethren, not ripeness level, but sugar levels. And then I don't want to have to add acid. I don't want to have to do any of those things. I want the wines to develop and be what they are based on the fact that we picked the grapes at the right place. And I don't want them to have residual sugar. I want them to be dry. And I've heard people. We've all cringed when we've heard this. I'm sure many of your followers have heard their friends say, "Oh yeah, my favorite wine is Meiomi Pinot. So dry, I just love it." It's not. It's very sweet, actually. If you do the statistics on it, it's kind of amazing. I'm not just trying to pick on them. It's just they're big and it's a big company, so who cares, right? But anyway,
none of my followers would drink Meiomi Pinot, first of all, and I
you
love
might be
the fact that
surprised.
he actually said
They're
my
sure
followers.
selling a bunch of it. Point is, this style of winemaking is classic Napa Valley Cabernet. And I've been drinking Napa Valley Cabernets back to the 60s. When I first got interested in wine, the 73 and 74 vintage were being released. So that gives you some sense of how stupidly old I am and why am I starting over again. But I think that these are the wines that I remember. This is the style of Cabernet that existed at a really glorious moment in the Napa Valley. And we've wandered a couple of different directions in the interim period of time, and I'm thrilled that it's kind of coming back. And there is a few people that kept that lamp lit the entire time, and you guys are one of them.
Well, I would say, when I started at Craig in 2004, Bob had experimented with, in a marketing sense of being a pioneer of a more ripe, approachable style. And I said, hey, man, that's like opening a decaf espresso bar in Portland, Oregon. This is not going to work, brother. We are making mountain wine. And to Bob's credit, he was willing to change course back to the original winemaker here was, oh my God, I can't even believe this. Was Bob Egelhoff. And
really? Yeah.
Those really classic wines up to 97 and the time that Rudy Zudima came in, and a very brief time with Chad. And then after that, it's been Teb. And so once I was able to get my teeth in, I'm just like, we just have to make wines that are pure to this place, because ultimately that's what honors the property in the Napa Valley. And what I love about, I saw Galoni give a review of a very highly regarded wine that Lisa Proddy Brown from Robert Parker's Wine Advocate had given 100 points to, and he completely excoriated the wine and the wines of that winery, and said, for the life of me, I can't tell one of these wines from the other wine. And I thought, finally, somebody is willing to talk about the emperor's clothes and say that the wine's been so worked on that you can't get to what there is in there. So,
it's a dialogue that continues on. And, I'm not really sure. Look at when I was getting ready to start in 2017, I knew I had the 2014. It was a style that I really liked. But I have to say, I thought about it for a while, because look at the success that some of these guys have had making that very, very ripe and honestly sweet style of Napa Valley Cabernet. It's foolish if you're doing this as a business proposition to just throw that away and just say, I'm just going to pretend that doesn't exist. So I thought about it quite a bit. And ultimately, I realized to myself that, like you said, first of all, I wanted to be true to the place. And second of all, these are the wines, a culmination of a career. And these are the ones I want people, when I'm gone and they talk about me, they pull one of these wines out. I'm going to be wherever I am, I'll be proud of the fact that we made the wines in this particular style, because I think that for all the same reasons that we were just saying, but I do believe that they age more gracefully too. I think that the ultimate, and I'm not sure why that's so important, but if you ever doubt that it's something that you want to experience, you should go to Burns Steakhouse in Tampa, Florida, and dig into one of their older wines. They have an incredible cellar, amazing temperature control, and you can drink wines back to the 40s without really even breaking a sweat there. And they have prices all over the place. I love, whenever I'm in Florida, I try to angle to go over there and hang out. Even if it's at the bar, you can still drink the whole wine list. So
Donald,
Elton, we do have a question that I think really ties in with what you guys are chatting about right now. Louis Napoli had said, why do Napa cabs in general have higher alcohol levels compared to Bordeaux? And is it a function of American tastes or location and climate?
it's both, I would say. I mean,
It's
it
both.
is, it's what Donald just spoke about, is people going for the esters. They want riper to get the press on board. It's and it's also our climate is warmer than Bordeaux. Although some of that in the mountains of Napa Valley, we certainly have the ability to make more Bordeaux-esque wines, and it's getting a lot warmer in France as we go on. That would be my answer to that question. And Donald, you broke the first rule of Fight Club. You're not to talk about Fight Club. Are you kidding me? Enough people go to Burn's Steakhouse and take all my wines off that menu. Donald, I'll let you put your own answer to that question before we move on to Vitor.
No, I think there's one other little twist to what you said. I agree with what you said in terms of the climate's a little bit warmer here, but I think that the other thing about the alcohols or stated alcohols have become more honest. Let's put it that way. If you go back to the 60s, look at vintage after vintage from places, the big guys, Louis Martini or Robert Mondavi Winery, they're the same. Every year it says the same number on the label. It's 12 or 12.5. They didn't know what they were doing their labels like a couple of years in advance. They had no idea what the finished wine was, and they had 1.5% alcohol either way. So basically they were just shooting to be under 14% alcohol. And whatever the alcohol really was is up for debate. I guess you can actually test them, but it's still the case. We have 1.5% one way or the other. So, some of these people are just excited about their alcohol levels and want to tell everybody, and other people are pretending like they're not making such alcoholic wines. But it's hard to get grapes physiologically ripe and not make 14% alcohol wines for the most part, when you're talking about Cabernet, especially, I think.
Well, I agree with that. Unlike you, Acid Trip Don, we
What
you know,
the?
our labels are, every year we label it 14.8 for all the reds, because screw it, I am done with changing that label. And so even though the Cabernets tend to be in the low 14s, we label it 14.8 because it's much easier that way. The Cabernets are always in the low 14s, and the Chardonnay has even hit the high 12s at times. But like you said, in California, to make a dry wine and have ripeness of the tannins, you simply have to go to 14. Well, let's move on. We are almost out of time. My real cocktail hour starts. It's not like I have anything pressing behind this, but my real cocktail hour starts in about 8 minutes. So let's move to the Mount Vitor, which is a contrast to the Spring Mountain. And the Mount Vitor is, oh my goodness, that thing is a freaking moose. So let's go to the Vide. And in my wisdom, I forgot that we were still going to be at Pimray Vineyard. So there's a nice review from Venus on the Spring Mountain. And if he had any other label in front of him, Galoni would have probably given this 96 points on the 18. But
what did you do to him? Why doesn't he like you?
Man, he does like us. I think I need to, I made one comment during a tasting and I'm still paying the price for it. But he did give this wine a big review. So this is looking down from Bald Mountain in this cradle on the north end of the Vitor AVA down at our little ranch, and this beautiful, as Phil Couturier calls it, hanging garden that is our Amentet vineyard, which is next door to this vineyard. Whoops, I can't believe I showed that. So here's our Vitor property. This vineyard is immediately next to the vineyard we're drinking. So I totally blew it in giving you guys, I did not load the correct pictures because I have not discussed Pimray Vineyard in some time. So I'll see if I have a shot, but Pimray is just to your left. That's Mount St. John right in front of you. And then the summit of Mount Vitor is just to the right-hand side. And it's in this beautiful little bowl on the north end of Vitor where we're not troubled by problems in ripening that global warming has brought, because it heats up inland and is now sucking a very heavy marine layer up against the Mayacamas mountain range, in particular to the south. And so this still ripens Cabernet, and you can see this is a gorgeous little 6-acre spot right next door to Pimray on the original erosion control plan. Here's Phil Couturier that's farming it now. He is a wily veteran, of growing, and also one of the most knowledgeable people in all of the Napa Valley. So he's taken this vineyard for us organic, and the rest will follow, but we'll never be certified for it. In case we get mealybug anywhere, I'll be out there in a hazmat suit spraying down your kids if they're playing in the vineyard. There's another shot of Phil. And so
that looks more like Phil actually there then.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
He's dressed conservatively in the other picture.
Exactly. But really a gorgeous, and this is Keith Emerson and Jason Price, the winemaking team for us. We're just so fortunate to have had this relationship with Robin Williams over the years. And the first time, Bob oversaw the planting of this vineyard with Brian Nuss back in, 1989 or 1990, and our first vintage from it was 93. And oh my God, seeing Robin and meeting with that guy was something else. And I noticed the Brandauers are on, and I would like to say, Brandauers, from my heart to yours. I was thinking about Michael Nugent this week, and we sold a property that he was involved in, and oh my goodness. But that aside, the Vita property was such a special place. And when Robin died, it just became impossible, to, obviously the Tesserons, when they came in, I said, how about, just 16 tons? No. How about 8 tons? No. How about 4 tons? No. So Jean-Michel Combe and his family, who have since been, after making, 200-point wines in a row at Ponte Canet, he's since been dismissed by the family, and I hope he's well, because he and his wife Corinne are amazing. But at $3.50 a bottle, it ain't any better than our wine. And this is one hell of a glass of Cabernet.
Yeah, it's funny because do you know who Joe Cafaro is?
Of course, man, the Merlot King back in the day.
He did really well with that, but he also did a lot with Cabernet Sauvignon. So I've been friends with him for a very long time, and we were having lunch together one time, and I said, if you could only make one Cabernet from someplace in the Napa Valley, which AVA would you choose? And I was expecting him to say almost anything but Mount Veeder, and he said Mount Veeder. I said, well, why? And he said, well, I like the soils up there, and I really like the intensity of flavor that you can get, and because I never made anything from up there. I never had a chance to buy grapes from up there, so that would be my choice. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. Other thing I think is kind of interesting is that Patz and Hall used to buy Chardonnay from right close by to that Pimray vineyard, just down Wall Road a little bit. There was a vineyard there that at the time was owned by the Carr family. And we used to make a single vineyard designate Carr Vineyard Chardonnay, which was then all ripped out and replanted to Cabernet later. But regardless, it's funny because, these things all end up overlapping.
Well, Donald, that's the way it goes. I never even knew we had so many neighbors with vineyards until that whole place burned. And you can see right through the forest, we lost the crop in 17. Our debut was 16 with a 96 pointer from Galoni, which I thought was low for that wine. And then we lost the crop in 20, the entire crop on that property with Phil Couturier after paying him $25,000 an acre to farm it all year long. So it was a heartbreaking year since we've owned this property. I'm like, I don't need to go crazy on crop insurance because this place hasn't had a fire in 200 years. That, should have been the opposite until Elton Slone puts his name on the title, then the fires start. But it was really, it's been intensive.
It's not been a fun year, and it almost started exactly a year ago with all of this stuff But it's just been, a complete apocalypse, and I'm kind of tired of it. So let's not have an apocalypse for the rest of this year. It would be nice just to have a nice, normal, kind of boring year would be awesome this year, I think.
Everything is burned around us, Donald, according to the fire map. I love this wine. I just think it's such a delightful wine. But I think in 2013, this was the first year that our guys at Silverado Farming took over that vineyard. Pete Richmond in 12 and 13, and they were making some really big changes to the canopy. They had a lot of leaf roll. They had leaf roll 1, 2, 3. They had red blotch. They had a lot of everything in the vineyard. And to me, it wasn't being farmed for uniformity to the way they got it in 2014 and 2015. So even though this is a 96-point wine, I believe from Advocate at the time, I think our 14 and 15 wines may have eclipsed this wine, which I love drinking. I mean, it's, oh my God, it's such a statement of Mount Veeder, and the ecosystem there is really wild. And it's like Howell Mountain, where you have the game cameras, we have mountain lions and bobcats, there are red-tailed hawks, and really rare woodpeckers. The ecosystem is so wild, and the wines reflect that savageness that is in the vineyard. Jamie, are there any questions? I know we hit the 4 o'clock hour, and I want to make sure we get Jeffrey in here to sing us out. It goes so quickly.
We had 2 questions on the affinity that maybe you could just address really quickly. Brian Duff had asked if the affinity is always made from all 5 of the noble grape varietals. And then Patrick Stam had said that their favorite pairing with affinity is grilled lamb chops and vegetables, or lamb kebabs and vegetables. And he asked if you had any favorites.
Oh my goodness. Patrick Stam, love to you and Lisa, my man. Every time I see Patrick's Instagram feed, I feel like I must have that. So he's a compatriot in crime in Burns Steakhouse. Patrick,
You said it now too, so.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you started us off. Well, Patrick, I would say, first of all, to answer the first question, affinity has always been all 5 of the Bordeaux 5. But in the coming years, we will see if we can still access all 5 of the Bordeaux 5. So it is all 5 of the Bordeaux 5. It will be that way through 2021 and into the 2022 vintage, released in 2025. So if we all survive the virus, and I'm sure the locusts and the monkey plague that's to come this year, it will continue to be all 5 of the Bordeaux 5. But I can't swear, because we lost our whole block of Petit Verdot and a lot of Malbec on our Candlestick Vineyard, where some of this fruit comes from to supplement the primary fruit source. Patrick Stam, with affinity, the beauty of affinity is it is our most malleable wine with food. And like the Zinfandel, the wine has so much lushness that I love it with a great steak in a restaurant. It's one of the all-time. I don't eat a lot of red meat anymore because my wife is such an animal advocate. So I have to sneak out and get a steak every once in a while.
Let me know when you want to do that. I'm happy to have a steak with you.
Maintain my sense of self. But I get it. But I have to say, affinity to me, if you're in a bistro where they do really great roasted chicken, or that iron skillet steak that's just done in butter, and they sear it on both sides and stick it in a crazy hot oven. That is my steak frite with affinity. Oh my God. If you go to Bistro Don Giovanni and have that, it's an experience like no other. And they sell affinity super cheap there. So I always say, when I go there, I'm like, my God, I could end my time now. But affinity is supple enough to take some wild salmon in a bag with some aggressive olive oil and shake it up with a little rosemary and some pepper flakes, and throw it on a plank, put it on the grill. And affinity goes really well with that, because it has some of that nuance of Pinot Noir in the wine, with all those different varieties and the lushness of the wine.
I want to talk one last time about Mount Veeder, because this wine is extraordinary, and it is different from both of the previous two wines. It's definitely more brutish, you know, and this is a tough wine. It's got lots of structure, there's power, and it's just sort of amazingly intense. And I love this style, and I really think you guys are doing some fantastic stuff. It's been a lot of fun to taste through all of these, but boy, this is a powerhouse wine, isn't it?
It needs a whip and a chair to this day. I mean, it's just getting started on its journey, you know. You guys, what can I tell you? Jamie, I hope your boy is at the ready for us to delete, but I see Marianne Nugent on. There's too many of my favorite people. We've had a crazy response to these. You guys are keeping us in business. Donald is one of the great guys in the wine business. He also makes beautiful Chardonnay and Pinot Noir under Maritana. He has a Rhone partnership. So we're going to give you Donald's email, and he's going to give you all.
There's Maritana.
That's right. And I have
the craziest. You need to drink more of this, Elton. This is the craziest one. This is Terminum, which is I'm doing with Francois Villard from the Rhone Valley. So got them all in.
The man has already spent his check from Patz and Hall.
Absolutely. Plus some.
Donald, thank you so much for your friendship and your willingness to come on and discuss these wines. What a pleasure.
It was a treat. It was a treat to be here. So thank you.
You guys all have a chance to get on his tiny list. And Jamie, thank you for hosting. And we are going to take you away with an Abbott Brothers song, with an Abbott Brothers song called Morning Song. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying some more of this Mount Veeder, and let Scott Castro take us out. Hit it, Scott.
All right. I'm going to do a quick plug. Is that okay? Yeah. I put it in the chat. Elton mentioned earlier, our band is Ordinary Sons, and we have been doing a lot of live streams through COVID. Tomorrow, actually, I'm going to do my first one of the year. Kind of been taking a little bit of a break, but do my first live stream on Facebook tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I put a link in the chat if anybody's interested in checking it out. And on our Facebook page, there's tons of live music from last year that we recorded, and yeah, just check it out if you like what you're hearing. Here we go. Oh, and you guys did a great job today, by the way. Hurt so bad, you don't come around it anymore. What's in that? Nothing's really helping. I've been thinking about drinking again. Well, it's alright if you finally stop caring. Just don't go and tell someone it does. 'Cause even though I know there's hope in every morning song, I have to find that melody alone. Her name became a flame unto the vine, a magpie on a wire waterfalls, dead unto the high, shamelessly alive unto the low. Well, it's alright if you finally stop caring. Just don't go and tell someone it does. 'Cause even though I know there's hope in every morning song, I have to find that melody alone. We can go ahead, but no one notices. What's the point of it? Well, I have to ask. And how you learn to see the hope eternally when it's on to be, oh, even less. hurt so bad, more than I expected that it would. Worse than that, it seems to be lasting just a little longer than it should. Well, it's alright if you finally stop caring. Just don't go and tell someone it does. 'Cause even though I know there's hope in heaven only song, I have to find that melody alone. I have to find that melody alone. I have to see the melody alone. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, everybody. Love and safe journey through the end of this damn virus. Bye, everybody. Good night.